Every day I answer questions. Today, a big Q&A. I'm going to answer a bunch of questions. We're going to have a good time with this one, so stick around. Coming up next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. Drinking some great Headbangers brew this morning. I love this stuff, let me just tell you. And by the way, folks, for those of you with churches and organizations and whatever, we now have the 5-pound bags. I'm just saying, 5-pound bags. And you'll get all of those things, plus our cool posters. This is the poster for the month. Jesus is God selfie. These are free, just download them. And all kinds of good stuff right here. WeAreMetal.com. Well, let's jump right in. You know, there are questions that I get that are quick answers and not necessarily things that I would use for my podcast. But today I thought, let's just do a bunch of questions and answers. I've never done that before. And I see all over the internet, on YouTube especially, that people do a lot of Q&As. So here we go. Dear Pastor Bob, how did you know that God is calling you to be a pastor? And when did you know when you wanted to be a pastor? That's a great question. Actually, I became a Christian when I was at 5 years old, and the Lord called me to be a pastor when I was 6. I knew it at that point, and so did my family. And I would make them sit in church services with me. We would go to church on Sunday, and after church was over, we'd all come home, and I would do another church service for them. And some of you know that I play the piano, and I would play the piano, and I would have the singing, and then I would talk and have a sermon. And I had church. And from that age, I knew that I would be. I just didn't know that I would be basically a rock and roll pastor, but you know, God had some great ideas, and he called me to do that when I was about 15, when Christian rock didn't really even exist at that time. And gave me the burden, gave me the vision when I was sitting on the tractor one day listening to a song that I just thought, wow, it'd be great if Christian music could be rock and roll. And that was 50 years ago. And so I always knew it. I always knew it from 6 years old. Dear Pastor Bob, are pastors such as yourself held to a higher standard in the eyes of God than other Christians in the church? Would love to hear your thoughts. Well, yeah, I think we really are, because, you know, it's really important that we communicate and connect people with God, and that we communicate it well. Now, I think that there are two ways to preach. You can either preach and you can do it by your own authority, or you can share and use God's authority. And I've done both, to be honest. I hope I'm doing the latter these days. But we are held to a standard, and that standard is a representation of who God is and what he's saying. Am I going to be judged more severely? No, I'm living in the same grace that everyone else is, but my works might be by people around me. And, you know, I've done things in the ministry I'm not proud of. I've preached sermons that I'm not proud of. I've made decisions that I'm not proud of. And after all of these years of being in the ministry and being a pastor, I have to say that, you know, not always done it correctly. And I look back on those times and I realize that God's grace brought me through. It was simply His grace that brought me through. And, this has been a long road for me. I just realized that it's been 50 years now since I graduated from high school. 50 years. It doesn't seem possible. And I've been doing this for a long time, It was more than that. It was 53 years ago, I guess, that He called me to be involved with Christian rock and roll, and it's been about 50 years that I've been actively working with it. There's so many things that have happened during that time, and so much that there wasn't any blueprints for. And I've been very thankful to have some very key people in my life. My father, one of them, and others that have mentored me and steered me in the right direction. And I always think, I can't believe that God uses me. Why did He want me to do this? Why did He want me to father a movement? Why me? Because I know me. I wouldn't have chosen me. But I'm thankful that He did, and I've sure enjoyed it all of these years. Hello, Pastor Bob. I hope you are safe and well. I'm worried about you. As usually at this time around midnight on a Wednesday here in Melbourne, Australia, you go live on the air. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. Are you still doing them, and has something happened? I miss you and your words of hope. Metal blessings. Well, I'm sorry that you didn't get the word. If you haven't joined our mailing list, would you do that today? And I think it's a real important thing that I can communicate with you aside from just the podcasts. And I do that through our mailing list, and you can just go there, sanctuaryinternational.com, and there's a place to sign up there. And I send out a newsletter. I was doing it often, and I didn't really need to do it that often once we got it off the ground, but it's about once a month or whenever we need to. And I make those announcements then. But yeah, we did stop doing the family chats for a while, simply because we're going to be replacing it with something else that I will announce here, by the way, when it's time, but it's just a little premature. I want to get a few more ducks in the row before we announce what we're doing, but you'll be even more excited when that happens. But no, we're not doing live right now, and something that's live and even better is about to take its place. Dear Pastor Bob, I was wondering if you have any bloopers that you could compile into one video, but perhaps you get everything right on one take. Well, let me tell you, I have chosen not to be polished, and I'm not polished. When I push the button and turn this on and I begin to speak, I just go for it. And if you watch me every day, you know there are bloopers that are live every single time. I make them, I laugh at myself, you probably laugh at me too, and I like that part. But I like not being polished, and so I just turn it on, I do one take, I don't edit, and it's just one take from beginning to end. And so I don't have a bloopers reel because my bloopers are included. What you see is what you get. That's about it. And here's a person that says, I was wondering when the Metal Bible might be back in stock. And thank you for that. One of the problems that we have with the Metal Bible is that it's international. That's not a problem. It's a great thing. And in 1999, the idea was born. And Johannes Jonsson in Sweden is a dear friend. And we talked about it way back then. And in fact, I have an interview that he and I did about the Metal Bible and its beginnings and all of that. But since that inception until now, it's in a lot of languages and going in a lot of places, and all the printing is done in Europe. So we don't have any printing in the United States, at least not right now. So the printing is done there, and we have to ship the Bibles from Europe to the United States. And so it's pretty costly. That's why we can't offer them really cheap, because most of it's shipping. But we do have some en route. When they get here, we'll be stocking them, and it won't be too much longer. It's great, great thing. If you haven't seen the Metal Bible, they're awesome, and you need one. Here's another question. Dear Pastor Bob, I would love to hear your take on what it means to be a man biblically. What is biblical masculinity? Many men these days don't have father figures in their lives, and there is a huge attack on the family. And I couldn't agree more. And I've kind of put it off because I don't feel like I'm qualified to do the talk on women along with it, and what constitutes a godly woman. I know it biblically, I just don't know it experientially. And I'm working on that, and I'm going to have somebody do that talk. But I am going to do this, and it's really time. In fact, I'm going to spend all next week doing this talk on biblical masculinity. All next week in a 5-part series, and it'll start, of course, Monday. And then I'm going to do the following week, either 1 or 2 days, probably 2, a series called Porn Again. We're going to talk about pornography. We're going to talk about the problems with pornography, and I want to talk to all of you that are struggling hard, because there are many of you. We're going to talk about how to get through it. So that's coming up, and that'll begin next week. Folks, we will do this again. If you enjoy this, if you enjoy doing just little quick Q&A, and why don't you let me know that? And if that's the case, I'll just open up one of my feeds for people to write questions, and we'll do this. It's kind of fun. Well, thank you once again for joining me today. I appreciate it. Always good to have this time with you. Don't forget, you are blessed, so go and be a blessing.